Welcome to my Minecraft Beta 1.7.3 World Tour, and also my first YouTube video in over a decade. I made this channel in 2007, and when I actually uploaded my first YouTube video in 2011, I was a 14-year-old sharing his Minecraft Beta 1.2 Let's Play. Throughout 2011, I made about 16 now privated Minecraft beta videos. Nothing interesting really happens in any of my videos, and they're filled with embarrassing, awkward teenager ramblings. But cut to 14 years later in 2025, I started a Minecraft beta world, but this time I think it's actually worth sharing. So I told myself once I hit day 1000, I would honor my YouTube roots and make a world tour video. I think it's at a decent point to share with the community of old Minecraft enthusiasts who have also ascended into Unk status. I still have a lot of big future builds planned for this world, so I hope you stick around and enjoy the world tour. Here we are at the world spawn. When I created this world, I was looking for a beach that had a decent sized lake and then a smaller hill right above the background of the beach. I didn't want a hill that was too big, even though there's a lot of really interesting beta terrain, because I knew I wanted to build a castle, and the world height limit I think is like 128 or 127 blocks in this version. So I didn't want to be limited by the world height by building on the most interesting terrain I could find. So the terrain around here isn't the most interesting, but it's perfect for my build. I have my clouds at, I think, the build limit as well. By default, they're a little bit lower and would intersect with this taller tower. This orange towel is the actual official world spawn. Decided to go with a boardwalk design for the beach area instead of more of like a dock design. Thought the boardwalk was a little bit nicer because you could walk under it. I have a path to my spider farm right under here. And I think it looks pretty good with being able to have a larger boat docked kind of aligned with the very center of the castle. This boat is definitely sort of cartoonish. I think it looks a little bit better from an angle rather than looking straight on. The gray wool outline of it makes it look cartoonish, but I sort of like that look. I think it adds a bit of a cozy vibe to the town. I kind of was going for starter RPG town vibes when building this. I can't really think of a good starter RPG town vibe as an example. All that's coming to mind is Pallet Town, but Pallet Town's not a great example because there's like 3 houses there. So on the upper deck, there's sort of like a crate storage area to transport goods, small captain's desk, dining area, and then barracks. We're actually going to sleep. I never actually sleep in my world when I'm regularly playing it. I think I've slept maybe a total of 20 or 30 times. I generally just play through the night. I like that because then I can sort of have a more accurate playtime measurement. And right now we are on day 1050, which is absolutely insane. Here is the town square. I'll give you an aerial view. On the right side, we have a bunch of shops. On the left side is the inn and the church. So let's take a walk in some of the shops. This is a redstone shop. These builds were made relatively early in my world. They were made to... I didn't really know what I was going to use them as. I think originally I was going to use them only as residential buildings, but I wanted a more... It made sense to have some shops in the central area of town. So instead I have a bit of a shop bottom and then a small residential area at the top of each of these builds. There's nature's blessing. This is just anything natural sold here. I won't show you the upper area of all these. They're not too interesting. You might notice that I have a fern on display, which is kind of strange. That's one of the features in one of the mods in the Beta Unleashed mod pack, which kind of aims to emulate a lot of the modern quality of life, vanilla-ish features, make them optional and toggleable. And one of those is being able to shear ferns for, like you can in the more modern versions of the game. Here's a wool shop. Very creative name. This is where people buy their fabrics, I guess. Over in the corner, I have authentic pink sheep wool. I've probably seen like 5 or 6 pink sheep total, but after I made this wool shop, I decided to start shearing them and keeping the authentic wool segmented from the rest of my pink wool. This is a mining shop, or like a stone shop. I don't really know. I don't have a blacksmith in here yet. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Here's where you can exchange your ores, purchase some stone material. Over here, as you can see, I love to make some interesting names for my different shops. Nether regions. You can only imagine what's in here. Thankfully, it's just nether material. A small park that kind of runs behind these houses, these shops, and intersect the outer walls of the castle. And the last shop we have here is the Carpentry Castle, with the idea being it's almost like there was a previous or older fortified castle design here in the past, and then the houses were built on top of it. All the wood products are sold here with some fictional prices like you saw in all the other shops. Just something to fill the town and make it feel a little more alive. I didn't want to go with any market stalls. I liked this design a little bit better for my town. Now, this side of the town is going to have a huge revamp in the future. You might notice this absolute monstrosity of a church. It is ugly. It looks so weird. I was kind of going for the same design principle as the Carpentry Castle, where it was like this fortified fort that eventually had a church built on top of it, but I don't think it came out great. I think it looked a lot better when I was using the older cobble textures instead of the earlier versions of the game. As you can see, the default textures blend it a little bit better and make it less jarring, but still, I just really don't like this build. And I have some bigger plans for this area, so I really don't like how cramped the central park is with my inn and the church. So the whole church, the graveyard, and all of this land over here to the left of the castle will probably be terraformed. I'll redo the central park. I want to build blacksmith, a greenhouse, a theater, a dog kennel, a bunch of other things that kind of extend out to the western side of my town, or southern side actually. I think north is that way. I think it'll look good and make the town feel a little bit more full. All of these houses along this coastline were a later addition and a way to add some minor lore to the world for, I guess, making the idea that citizens are lumberjacks that chop down the trees in the tree farm and participate in all the other regular farming activities in that giant wheat field that we'll look at a little bit later. But after I added this area, it made the southern part of the town feel a lot more empty and strange. I was pretty concerned about not blocking the view of the castle in the past, but at this point I've just sort of given up on that. I'll still maybe try to keep that in mind as I demolish this church in the future, remove the graveyard, and terraform all of this land. But a lot of that will be changing. I just wanted to document it right before I did it. I think the inside of the church is nice, but yeah, the outside is just, it's tough to look at. I don't know what I was doing when I built it, but it was one of my earlier builds, which I think is why I'm really not too concerned about getting rid of it. I didn't have the full idea of what this town was going to be like at that time. Here we have the Carpentry Castle, or not the Carpentry Castle, the inn. I think the inn is a good build. It's actually one of the only builds that has this sort of extending out design that you see in a lot of medieval builds. I didn't really want to do that for any of the others in this town. And I don't keep too consistent of a style between my builds, as you can tell. I like to make clusters of builds that look alike, but I'm not too concerned about keeping a consistent theme throughout a specific town or a world. But I think this inn turned out pretty nice. You just can't get a great view of it because of the giant castle, so hopefully it'll look a little bit better when we fully demo the castle. There's a outdoor eating area where people who are chilling on the beach can come in and grab a bite to eat or a drink. It's near the path that connects to the train station that we'll see over there, so travelers would come in and stay at the inn, hang out. Small seating area. This is like where the host would either check you into the hotel or you'd get seated to eat. There's a small kitchen back here. Proceeding to eat in a balcony that overlooks the town, which I think is pretty nice. I have 4 different rooms. I'll show you off 2 of them. It's just a simple design again. Place for travelers to spend the night, grab a bite to eat. This area sort of is more for suites. There's like a downstairs dining area, and then 2 beds on the lofted areas above. Design over here is essentially identical. Same with this one down here. Love the big windows in this build though. You get great views of the city and the coastline. This is the library, and it's one of the more recent builds. You can see the pattern of the specific block palette I chose is different than the rest of the town, but sort of similar to some of the things we can see in the background. That's the train station over there. This is the watchtower. And I don't really have set world lore, but the idea is that, like, whoever created the railway created a bunch of other public work projects to the town that has this monarchy rule or something like that. I don't really know. Like I said, I don't know if set lore, but the idea is like the people that constructed the castle and the town really didn't have a part in building the library or the train station or the watchtower. These were gifts or different organizations that built these. We'll take a look in the inside of this in a second. Actually, yeah, we'll do it right now at nighttime. So there's a book return, a balcony area where you can just walk up and get a good view overlooking the library. And then downstairs, like this bay window that overlooks the wilderness. And downstairs we have a art gallery and a meeting room. I think I want to name these paintings eventually, but right now I just have some blank signs. Let's go check out the small dock area that you might have seen over here and sleep so that we can get a view at daytime. These are super compact, pretty similar builds between them all. The interiors are all identical, you're not missing much. It's just a seat, stove, chest, and a lofted bed. Don't have a path to this watchtower over here. I do keep small chests with boats around. You can pick up the boats instead of destroying them with Beta Unleashed. So you can take a boat there to the small dock, or you can take one of these tunnels. This connects back to the outer area we'll look at in a second. This can go back under to a small cave entrance over there. That way you can cross the ocean here while still making it seem like there's a spot for larger ships to pass through to the bigger sea. So this takes you to an area that I said I'm going to expand after we demolish the church and graveyard. And this takes you back out to the graveyard and the side of the library. You can get a little sneak peek at the meeting room. We'll take a stroll through this part of the graveyard. Here's where I have my nether portal in a similar ruined castle design. There's nothing interesting in the nether, so we're not going to walk through there. But let's take a look at the castle. So on the outside of the castle, I have these small garden areas where I store some extra flowers, which I have a lot of because of how much wheat farming I did, as you'll see over there, which took so many seeds and a bunch of bone meal. So I have so much extra red and yellow flowers just to use in my world that I store out here. And you can see I've decorated the front garden of the castle a decent bit. This was really what I wanted to build when I first made this world. I really just wanted a super square, classic castle design to just dig a bunch of stone non-stop and use it all towards a big build that overlooked this town. I really like it. You know, when I first played the older versions of this game, beta and alpha, I remember building a giant cobblestone castle that was ugly, and it's just funny to think that I had all the same resources as I basically had in this version of the game to make something that looked really good, and I built something that was just an ugly giant cobblestone wall with a huge empty area in the middle, and I thought that was a castle. I think it's funny how the older versions of the game are just, when you look at videos of people playing older versions of the game, the design philosophy and the things that people thought were possible were just way different. You watch videos of people playing beta today, and their mindset and the scope of their builds is much more aligned with modern Minecraft. And people just thought about the game a lot differently back then. I'd like to maybe make an area that tries to emulate a more classic build style rather than something super ornate and decorated like we see here. Here's a nice meeting hall, dining hall for the king, iron throne, some diamond bling around here to decorate the place. Love these paintings. The color of the floor. Cozy fireplace. And this iron throne with some diamond and gold accents. Here's my storage room where I keep all of my major materials for the world. Upstairs there's 2 layers of overflow for all the extra cobble and dirt I end up collecting by terraforming and mining like crazy. Upstairs is the king's quarters. Perfectly centered view of the dock and the boat. Here's the overflow storage I was talking about. Here I have a planning room where we can put all the different things I need to do on a singular list. As you can see, there's a bunch of rambling, insane signs with plans. I would do this on a notepad before, but I think it's kind of cooler to do it in a specific part of the world. This tower is a pretty different design from the rest of them. It's made to look like a later addition to the world. Like, this castle was older, but then they came back with all their extra riches and stone to build this giant watchtower that's a little bit more ornate. Goes way up to the world height. You have a great view of everything we just walked through. See all my tree farms that are both pretty big, all 3 of them. You can see a little bit of the area we'll be touring next. For now, I think we'll jump down to bedrock. This area connects to a bunch of different parts of the world. But for now, I'll show you a giant area mine, which is great for getting slime to spawn. As you can see, I've mined an insane amount of cobblestone out of here. It is a huge area. Here is my mine that's decorated. So this area was really the first thing I did in this world, creating this mine. After I spawned in the beach we saw earlier, I walked up to this hillside. I built the exterior of this mine. As you can see, it was established on February 5th, 2025. I used the American dating method. It would be crazy if I hit 1,000 days after creating this world in May. It's already pretty insane I hit 1,000 days after creating it in February, but I've played a lot. This area, as a result of being one of the first things I've built, is sort of the most central to all the others. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different doors all that lead to different areas. The spot where I guess townspeople can come mine stuff. I don't have anything interesting in the other towers besides the one that we saw earlier. So let's walk through the backyard. Here I have a charcoal kiln where I can segment my charcoal furnaces from my coal furnaces, and then smelt all the different trees I chop down if I want to use charcoal as fuel instead of coal. Some trees and planters, small dining area, mushroom farm using brown wool. It's nice to have a build that uses some brown wool. I've been collecting a bunch of it from all the sheep that spawn. As you know, that's the only way you can get it in this version of the game. But I haven't had too many builds using brown wool yet. And then a nice bath or pool, hot tub, something with some flora and fauna decorating it. This is sort of how the yard was before I built this exterior. Alright, I guess let's sleep, and then I'll walk back through the tree farm part, and we'll take a look at the houses along that cliffside that we looked at earlier. Yeah. Okay, there we go. As you can tell, I really don't sleep much in this world. So let's go through the tree farm. I forgot to show off the kitchen. This is where all the cooks slave away to feed the king. Some infinitely burning furnaces, using some redstone tricks you might be aware of. Right. Yeah, the tree farms are not super interesting. I do like making a more natural tree farm instead of a uniform area that is just meant a more efficient area just to chop down the trees. I like making it natural. I think it looks good on the hilltops overlooking the city. It can look a little weird, but I like it. I like that it gives some atmosphere as I walk through here. Of course, I chop all the trees down using iron instead of diamond. Diamond axes aren't super efficient, but I tend to make them just for my day-to-day use rather than my tree farming. Alright, here's my giant wheat field. A lot of this area was desert before I converted it, as you can kind of see over there. And I thought it looked kind of weird with the rest of this continent all being grassland, so yeah, I converted it to farmland. I have a sealed gate over there so animals can't come in and trample it. You need a pathway so you don't trample it unless you're using the fence trick in beta versions of the game. And then yeah, here's the tree farm path that we just walked through. Great view of the town. I want to build a windmill right around there a little bit later. As you can see, I have a sort of airlock design so that I can't have mobs walking in here. Alright, yeah, like I said earlier, these houses were made more for a view at a distance. I think it looks really good when looking at a distance. All of the interiors are decorated. They're not insanely interesting. They all are relatively similar and have just a fireplace, spot to cook some food, seating area, some books. and a small bedroom that's lofted. So I won't go show off the others. Some areas have nice porches too. There's nothing too interesting on the inside, so for the sake of time, we'll just walk through here. I won't walk across the bridge, I'll just go back to free cam, but this whole area along the coastline, I want to start building a stilted village. I think it'll look really good while looking out towards the rest of the coast. Alright, I think we're gonna definitely fast forward as I walk to the train station area. Right, so this winding pathway right now leads to the train station. Over here, we have a small bandit camp. We'll be moving this a little bit further south as I extend the rest of the town. Keeping my naturally spawned pumpkins here. And then we see a sort of locked door that we can't enter. You can follow the torch path at the top to find the secret entrance. Here's where we have some illegal activities going on. That's why the bandits are camped right out there. You can dupe some sand, as you might know. You can transmute some blocks, make some illegal blocks that don't exist in this version of the game, crash slabs. Here's sort of like a counterfeit painting area, I guess. And an abandoned mine. Here's the rest of the path that we looked at earlier, which connects to the train station, wraps around part of the tree farm. So we're going to go back to FreeCam to give you a better view of this train station build. I started building this when I was getting very bored of building my primary town, and then my world just kept expanding more and more and more. But here's a train station in a dramatically different style than the rest of the world over there. A little bit more modern or fancy with a lot of glass, using some brick. It was sort of the vibe I'm going for over here. I think it looks great. I love this glass dome. You can see that there's a railway track extending out into this hill, and I haven't actually built or finalized any official railways yet, just because I'm still building a lot around this area, and I want my railway to be built above ground, and it's just hard to plan out exactly where the railway will run when the logistics of the rest of my small towns around the central area haven't been completed yet. So the idea is that this area will lead to the international rail, while this area will lead to the continental rail. There's a small seating and ticket area. There's a path down there that leads to that railway we saw earlier, and an underground path that goes over there. I like this glass dome, I think it looks awesome. And we can see the rest of the town here. So on the hillside we have some areas where the more affluent people live in. I guess they're like sort of railway engineers, or I don't know, more distinguished than the sort of peasants that we saw who tend to the farms and are lumberjacks and things like that. Take a walk through that town shortly. Right, so this area, I don't really know what these houses are. I guess they're sort of almost like a vacation home or a rental home or something. They're super modular, all different colors. Pride Fishing Village. I don't know what to call it. I don't have names for any of my towns. It's just colorful. Maybe more. I was thinking about maybe going for a more tropical vibe or something, but I didn't really do that. So I guess they're just vacation homes or something that people can take the train to and come fish for a weekend or something. I'm not exactly sure. I have this sort of manufactured central area that I dug out to kind of have a small cove that goes into this other lake or pond, which goes out to the bigger sea. Sleep in one of these houses and continue the tour. Simple interior. Nothing to talk about there. Let's go to that sandcastle you probably saw. Built this sandcastle actually right as we hit day 1000, and I recorded my build of it as a sort of practice exercise to make sure that I still knew how to edit things, because I haven't edited a video since probably like 2014 when I was working on a high school project. The footage wasn't super interesting, so I'm not going to post it, but it was a good practice just to get back in the groove of recording and editing again. My world is going to expand a little bit further around here. I think I want to build like a hot air balloon flying over the sea here. I want to turn this into sort of a glass dome underwater research area that maybe connects to the railway over there. And then over here, I have a area where I farm a bunch of snow. So maybe a sort of Nordic village or something in a different style exists over on this part of the coastline. Castle interior is very simple. I just use as much sand as possible and sandstone whenever I needed a gravity block. Love this view. I think it'll be great when I build a lighthouse and all the other features that I just discussed earlier. Alright, we're at the final stretch of the tour. We're going to take a boat back, walk across this bridge, take a look at some of those houses, and see the last village. Right, so yeah, these are the more affluent houses I've mentioned. They were built relatively recently, so I don't have any interiors done, but I will decorate all of my interiors like I do for all my builds. This is the other end of the oak tree farm, as we saw back there. I'll quickly show you from an aerial view some of these houses, but as you can tell, they're a little bit more ornate than other player houses that you've seen, or citizen houses I should say, since I'm the only player on here. So there's a quick view of the exterior of some of these. I really like how they came out. I just need to wrap up the interior. And I'm missing a piece of spruce here. I'll get to that later. Here's just a small bridge to the Pagan village. So these people love nature. They don't go to the church over there. They're sort of outsiders to the rest of the civilization, and they live in these leaves and grass roof huts. Very simple interiors once again. Here's the inside view of living in these strange roofed houses. I used as much natural material as I could. And as you can see over here, since they're pagans and I guess like the not religious, they have their own religious rituals, which include burning people alive and human sacrifice. If you've ever seen The Wicker Man, you might be familiar with a build like this. Of course, I Minecraftified it to make it a blocky guy instead of a more traditional human. You can just imagine Nicolas Cage getting tortured by a face mask built of bees and then loaded up in here. If you've ever seen that movie, if you haven't, that probably makes no sense. And that's it. That's what I have so far. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of plans for this world. I think that it's going to look really good when I start building some of the more stuff on this coastline over here and the stilted village over there. So hopefully if you subscribe and like the video, maybe I'll make some future world updates. I'm not sure if I'm going to make any build videos or anything like that, but if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It's honestly crazy that you made it this far because I've been rambling like crazy, but I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.